Carla, I saw you being interviewed on PG Car in-game, but obviously before the final whistle and the scoreline, but in particular the Kelly Brady hat-trick. She was very impressive, and she has been all season. I know she's been in training, but like, what else would she need to do this week to get in the squad?
Yeah, I think Kelly's been impressive all season, and spent a day down at Flown as well, where equally I was quite impressed with what we saw. And I think she just gives you something a little bit different. I think her athleticism is probably different to maybe some of the other League of Ireland players that we've looked at. Her movement in the box is unbelievable. I mean, you have a look at the first and the second goal. I think that just her movement to get across players, and she's got a leap like a lot of forwards would love. So yeah, I think she's been impressive, but like I said, we've spoken about it a lot, haven't we, around the difference between League of Ireland part-time football into full-time. The biggest gap is probably that athleticism and the physical side of it, so it'll be a really good chance to have a look at her this week for sure.
And the chance of her getting in the squad, does that depend on her contribution in training this week?
No, it is just a training player. Obviously we've got picked 23 from 24. I would suggest it would take maybe somebody coming out at this point. If you have a look at her competition in that 9 spot, we're quite heavy loaded there. But I think this initially is to have a really good look at her, and for her to obviously have a look at a full-time setup as well.
Would the training player herself and Maria, would they travel to Belgium as well, or is it just a few days here?
No, just here. Yeah, just here. So they'll be with us this week. They report in this afternoon.
What's your biggest selection conundrum at the moment? Would it be the goalkeeper position?
I'd say a few, really. Yeah, the goalkeeper situation, yes, because look, I think Grace and Sophie are in good form. I think, from a data point of view, we're talking top 2 in the WSL right now. So they're both playing, they're both performing, they're both very different. So that is a big question mark, and honestly, that's not been decided yet. I really do. I do think that there's some conversations to be had and have a look at certain areas. But there's also some question marks in the middle of the pitch, because we've got a lot of players that are coming back from injury or long-term injuries. We've got players that aren't necessarily playing 90 minutes each week, so there's still question marks in there as well.
What about having the game at the Aviva Stadium? It's a national stadium, big capacity, but it's the time of year and everything, it's not going to be anywhere near full. Yeah,
first of all, to play at the Aviva is an unbelievable opportunity. I'm looking forward to going there. Yes, of course, you'd prefer a sold-out stadium. I think back to the game in Cork and the noise there, and you think, if you can get those sorts of numbers and that sort of atmosphere, I think it will help us. So hopefully ticket sales increase this week. I think you've seen probably a drop-off across the game. I think throughout Europe and after the Euros, after any major competition, you expect numbers to increase, but it's been really strange this time around, because I think even in the WSL, La Liga, you've seen attendances drop, and not quite sure what that's down to. It could be cost of living, it could be a number of things, but hopefully there's a big push this week where we get some more bums on seats.
Hi, Carla.
Hi, you okay?
Oh, good. Previously I was thinking back when we played League A teams at the Aviva, it's been the likes of England, Sweden, and it's kind of had to be a pragmatic approach and a bit of back to the wall and all that kind of stuff. But against Belgium, is there a feeling that there isn't actually that huge gap between us and them, and we might go a bit more toe to toe with them?
Yeah, for sure. We've had that conversation. We had a meeting this morning, a welcome meeting, and I said something similar. I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because Belgium were probably the toughest team we could have faced out of that group, out of that pool of teams. But I think that, I think we have to set a mentality and a mindset of belief and confidence. If you have a look at the data from when I took over to now, we've had more of the ball, we've won more duels, we've created more, we've had more progressive passes, we've had more. We've increased in every single statistic bar one. Which is aerial duels, but it's probably because we get the ball down and play a little bit more. So it's a reminder, and we've gone through that this morning, what the whole Nations League looks like. how we can be brave, how we can be progressive. I think that's going to be really important. So, yeah, anyone that knows me, I struggle to sit back and just bank up. So, I think we have to get on the front foot because we want to win the game.
Could you just talk to us a bit about how important it is to be in like League A as opposed to League B, especially when you're heading into a World Cup, and in terms of the team development, you want to be playing against the biggest teams if you're going to be facing them then at the World Cup?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk around this, isn't there, where it's best to be. For me, we want to be in League A. We have to be. For me, I think it's you get better by playing the better teams. I always said it growing up, the quicker, it's like being in a boxing ring, right? The quicker you get hit, the quicker you get back up and you go again. And I think if you can play against the best teams and the best players, you find a lot more out about yourselves. And I think I want to play against the best teams in the world. That's a fact. And I think so do the players. So yes, we won't talk about what route's better right now. I think we become a better nation long term if we're competing against the best.
Did you get to the Euros to see Belgium a bit?
Yeah.
What did you make of them? What kind of team were they?
They were interesting because, how do I put this? They've got the ability to be very, very, very good, but they've got flaws in their system. I think they were one of the best teams on transition, offensive transitions, but then I think they were one of the teams that can be exploited in defensive transitions. So I think that we have to be aware because they've got a lot of quality, but I also think that they'll probably be saying something similar about us because I think there's areas that we can really hurt them.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Carla, is Kira Bruce okay? She wasn't in the squad for the weekend.
She's perfectly fine. She's available for selection. She's probably a little bit frustrated of her lack of minutes, but she's hungry to be back in camp. That's for sure.
Can I just ask you? You've been in this role now 10 months. Are you happy here? I mean, not in terms of environment, the structure, the support, and everything that's around you to help do your job. Are you content?
Yes, I'm. Those that know me, I'm always happy. I'll always make the best out of any situation. So, in short, yes.
You'll be aware that your predecessor, Eileen, had issues around travel, medical support, things like that. Is there anything from your point of view that could be better?
Yeah, look, you can always improve, right? Every environment can improve. I say this all the time. When I came in, I knew there was work to be done. I think it goes back to, I think my whole career I've been at places where I've had to bang down doors and kick down doors, and I can be quite annoying because I can constantly ask for more and try and get better standards, better facilities, better everything for players, and I'll continue to do so. So it's something that I don't know if I'm answering your question here. Yes, of course, there's challenges, but yes, are we consistently working towards improving everything we do? Yeah.
There's nothing in terms of like maybe certain assurances you were given coming into the job that you've been disappointed with, or you haven't come to fruition as you thought they might?
That happens in every walk of life, right? Whether you're in a relationship or whether you're in a job. I think there's always going to be things that pop up that you maybe don't expect, but it's how you deal with them and how you face them. And I certainly face them with conversations. I'm probably the biggest communicator. Like I said, I can be quite annoying, can't I, Gar, with my communication. I communicate constantly. And that's constantly challenging, and I will continue to do so to make us better.
Carla, just following on from that, will you kind of speak to the players this week and get their opinions? Like, I know inadequate conditions have been alleged, and just try and find out a little bit more about the setup?
Not this week, no. It's all focused on Belgium. I've spoken an awful lot. We've had a lot of internal conversations. I've spoken with players. I'm in constant contact with anybody and everybody over the past few months, and I understand everybody's side of it. I've been in conversation with everybody, including Eileen, including the players, including the board. Like I said, I like to communicate. But no, this week's about camp. You know, we spoke about this morning. I think the players will say the same. I don't think anybody wants to talk about anything but Belgium, and I love that because We had a chance to talk about it pre-camp. The moment we walked through the door, Belgium.
Football-wise, how big of a boost is it to have Denise fit and obviously back playing for the weekend?
Yeah, I've been on quite a lot with the medical team. I've been on to Denise constantly, seeing where she's at. We were told, it was probably a couple of months ago, we were told she was out, and I don't settle for that until the last minute, so you always keep the door open. So to have her back in is huge, because she's not just on the pitch, off the pitch she's phenomenal, but listen, on the pitch I would argue she is one of the best players I've ever worked with. And what I mean by that, as a pro, as everything she does, she is just, to lose Denise would be catastrophic. She's unbelievable for us. So can't tell you how happy I am that she's back in with us.
And just a word for two players who aren't in this squad, Megan Campbell, who retired last week, and then at the other end, Tara O'Hanlon, who is back playing football after 800 plus days. Just a word for both of those.
Yeah, Megan Campbell, I could sit here and talk for days. I really admire her. I've had a long-standing relationship with her for, 10 plus years, probably longer actually. I could probably say 20 plus years. But, from playing against her and then working with her, I realised what a unique person she is. She drives standards. She's been unbelievable, and we spoke throughout the whole summer, from the moment she left camp in the US with that injury, and how we hoped that she might have continued playing to have one, probably a send off that her career deserves for what she's done for this country. But she's a phenomenal individual, a really good person, somebody I'm still in contact with, someone that's coming in this week. And we're going to do something at the Aviva on Friday. So yeah, it's another big loss to the national team. For Tara, she's exciting, she's young. I spoke to her a few times, certainly early on in the season, and I think to see her get the minutes she got yesterday was great. So now it'll just be about managing her, and hopefully come November we're in a position where we can have a proper look at her. You're welcome.
Hi Carla, Mark from BBC. I'm going to forfeit my question, but with good reason. This is Lachlan and Sean.
Hi.
They're on work experience with the FAI from Monkshood.
I knew there was work experience people in here. I didn't know who.
Press conferences would be journalists, and if you'd be happy to take a question from both of them, they'd be very happy.
My pleasure.
Lachlan.
What do you expect from Belgium on Friday?
So, Belgium, like I said, Belgium have got a lot of quality. They've got a lot of experience in their team. One thing you saw from the Euros is, they were statistically the best transitional team at the Euros, and they caused a lot of problems. They even caused Spain a lot of problems. You saw that. So look, we know we're going to have to look out for that. What I would say is there's areas that we feel we can really hurt them and exploit them, and you'll see that in the way that we are set up for the game. But they've got good players. We have to nullify Tessa Woolart. She's an exceptional talent. She's a seasoned pro, and I think that for Belgium to tick, she needs to be ticking. So we'll try and slow her down a little bit.
What difference would it make to win this game for the squad going forward?
Huge. We want to win football matches, and I say it all the time. I think we have to try and win every game that we, any opponent we're up against. But we want to be in League A. I know there's been conversations about it, but for me, there's only one outcome. We want to win the game. Yes, okay, if we fall short, it's a different conversation, but we want to go out there and we want to win the game.
Thank you.
Hi.
How good is it for Jess and Jamie to be back after both of their ACL injuries with the national team?
Yeah, it's a big boost. I think Jamie's got a lot of match minutes under her belt this season. I've been really impressed with the way she plays. I like the way she plays, and I think it's an area of the pitch that we need to now bring players through. So. Real boost. Jess has had a little bit less exposure, but the minute she has had, she's looked different to what we've got. So I'm delighted to have them both in, and I've not worked with them before, so yeah, it's been good to have them in.
John? Yeah, just going back to Anthony and Emma, because resources are important. I know you're match focused on that, but do you expect the resources to be the same as we will see as the men's team from an international setup?
Resources, yes.
And are they?
think it depends what we call resources, is what I would say. And the reason I say that, and that's not shying away from the question, as you know me by now, I answer anything that comes my way, right? But there is conversations on what the realities are and where we're at and what is being spent on what, and there are conversations currently ongoing and paused for this camp because it's important that we focus on this camp, and those conversations will continue after around what that actually looks like, and this has been going on for a few months now.
Does that in any way impair your ability to get results?
I'll tell you what impairs my ability to get results. The lack of talking about football and maybe the noise that isn't football. And the more we can focus on football, the better. And the quicker we can talk about football, the better.
I know, but you said you're happy with what you have, and then you said you banged down the door. So
I didn't say I was happy. The question was, am I happy?
Yeah.
I'm always happy.
Yeah. So.
Well, most of the time I'm happy.
Okay.
But yeah, you have to bang down doors to change, of course. I've been at clubs where resources aren't quite adequate. When I come in here, there's no secret. I think I said after the second press conference that there was things that needed to change and we needed to change, and we have those conversations. David's been receptive to things that I've gone to him with. There's been areas that I think we need to improve, and they are constant conversations. So it's very different. Am I happy? Yes. Am I happy with everything? No, things can always be better. Does that make sense? Go on.
We'll actually have to make Tuesday.
And I'll give you the same response. The more we can talk about football, the more I can focus on my
what
job.
I'm saying is, if you lose the game, there won't be any excuses in terms of resources. Is that fair to say?
The resources, the standards we have right now shouldn't impact this week. We're talking about a bigger piece, right? So the bigger piece is, how do we improve standards across the board as an organisation? How do we make sure that our focus is football? That is critical, because I would say, since I've come into the job, 80% hasn't been football. So you have to then refocus everything back to football. Football is what we're paid for, what we need to be judged on. I'm going to be judged on results, right? So the quicker we can talk about football and focus on football, the better. Does that make sense?
Are we at that stage though?
Has that been a frustration for you, Carla, that there has been a lot of outside noise that's duping into the job? Obviously everything around dialing and other issues around the area. Is that going to wreck your head a bit, that the focus is taken away from the actual football?
Look, we're human beings, right? And I think that, of course, outside noise takes your focus away. That's normal. It's like in any of your guys' jobs. If there's if there's things that you're dealing with that aren't football related, of course, that's going to take a lot of time and energy when you want the energy to be on the team and on the football side of things. You can't sit here and say it doesn't bother me, it doesn't affect. Of course it does. That's life. That's the realities of being a human being. But how we attack them and how we try to sort them, yeah, I'm going to have to be front-footed and try and help change that and try and drive change.
That's like an historical battle in the sport, though, isn't it? I mean, whether it's this country or other countries, so whether it's equal pay for managers, I mean, that's kind of a small issue compared to the spending of associations and teams and countries on the women's game and the men's game. So there is that constant battle,
Yeah.
which is then added to by whatever noise there is in a football club or an association. Like this.
You're right. I think at club football it's different, because I think men's versus women's in club football is very different from a commercial point of view, from a marketing point of view, the age of the game, maturity of the game. I think there's a lot there. And Emma spoke brilliantly. I don't know if you listened to Emma Hayes talk much, but she spoke brilliantly last week around trying to guide the game through a female lens rather than the men's lens. So every single thing in the game, right? whether it's training, whether it's facilities, whether it's the way we do things, whatever we do, we've always done it through a male lens because that's where football's been for so many years. Whereas we need to try and focus now through a female lens, and how do we do that? So that is a period. It's not going to happen overnight. So from a club point of view, it's very different to an international point of view. An international point of view, yes, you would expect similar resources, of course. Like at club football, it's a little bit different because they're different markets. So that's the difference between the two.
So you said like the outside noise and 80%, which we talk about 80% of the time. It's the same within camp because 8% of this is coming from current or former FAI employees.
Say that question again, sorry?
The outside noise you talk about, it has come from either current or former FAI employees.
Yes.
That's what it's been about.
Yeah.
We talk about it, but it's the same within camp.
Yeah, by the way, when I say outside noise, I don't mean you guys.
What?
I don't mean you guys when I talk about outside noise.
Oh, sorry, where's it coming from then?
So as in, when I say outside noise, so everything that's going on around the FAI, around all the bits and pieces, I don't mean from you guys. It's your job to report on it. I respect that.
So is it within camp as well that it becomes a distraction?
Not within camp, no. I think the players are exceptional at focusing on what the job is.
Emma spoke about it being someday financially viable for you to get the same amount of money as the current incumbent male manager. Is that a red herring, or is that something that should be on the radar, or should the resources in terms of women's football in this country be more important than that?
I think at international football, I think more so. I think at club football, I think it's a completely different kettle of fish. I really do. I think the game, I think it is. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds. We're talking about players on £500,000-600,000 a week now. It's a completely different game. You know, they're selling out stadiums. The marketable is complete. For me, the club football is different. International football, you could argue that's something that should be considered.
Would be on your radar yet, though?
In what respect?
Well, in terms of here.
I couldn't tell you what the male manager was on. I don't think he'd tell me if I asked him.
But you wouldn't be seeking parity anytime soon, or this is another...
Right now, my concentration has been to try and iron out what we need to iron out and try and get focused for camp.
Carla, would you say that what Eileen has said has been helpful to you in terms of banging out the door? I know it might not be helpful in terms of focus being off the pitch again, but when you're having those conversations, has it been helpful? I think I don't know if helpful is the right word. I think Eileen's obviously, brought to attention things that she's encountered. So, only past will know that. I can only bring forward what I encounter. Yes, is there some similarities? Yes. Yes, is there certain things that we're still working through? Yes. So, like I said, it's we're constantly trying to move forward. I think, they've been receptive to trying to create change in the areas that we need to. And then I think that's really important that we try and do that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hi.
Just seen your little hand. Go up.
Hi. Just going back to the match on Friday, how
Yes.
important would it be for your career to get the win and to promote the team into League A?
Yeah, huge. I'm ambitious. I took the job because we wanted to move forward. It's been a huge transition, probably bigger than when we first spoke, because there's been a lot of senior players retire, and that a lot gets taken away. And we talked. I think was it Anthony? We talked about. When you take senior players out of an environment, it's tough. So it's been a big transition, but actually the way they've adapted and the opportunity now to go into League A will be massive.
Thank you.
Thank you.